Hey, Jules Blessed Vegan, and as always, welcome. And for those who are new, I hope you can benefit from this channel. I named this Between a Rock and a Hard Place. And the reason I say that is because I'm trying to change. And I think it's really difficult to make concrete change. I mean, it starts with the desire. And the desire has to be followed by action. And accountability. And I think accountability is my word for the year, if I remember right. I think that's what I chose in Tanny Raw's Raw Reset. And as always, if you're not familiar with Tanny Raw, look her up on every social media platform. She is a phenom, especially for the raw vegan community, but also just giving life skills, just giving people life skills to cope in any area, let alone with food. That said, though, the reason I feel like I'm between a rock and a hard place is because on the one hand, I'm totally gaining strength. You know, I'm making choices, and as Miss Raw says, moment plus moment equals momentum. So I'm gaining some momentum, but I'm also falling. And I try and fall forward, meaning another thing that Tanny says is that when you slip once, it's a slip. If you do it twice, it becomes a habit. You know, it's a new habit. And so I try not to fall more than one day. You know, I pull myself back together. So I've been consistent this year in many ways, especially with Dawn's Happier Rebounder Challenge. Again, something you can find on Instagram and Facebook. I've been consistent in showing up with that. I've been consistent with Jules Blessed Vegan and making my videos every single day. And I've been doing arm exercises. I mean, there's many things that I've been doing, but where I'm kind of, where I just continue to struggle is with being truthful, partly to myself, you know, and also to God. I'm a God person. That's where the blessed part comes in. And what happens is sometimes, I mean, I know that God is all-knowing, and He most certainly hopes that we will make the best choices and go in an unexpected direction. I mean, and even in being all-knowing, He granted us free will, so we can certainly still surprise or immensely disappoint Him. But sometimes as I'm making, like, I don't want to make a promise to God, especially if a part of my heart is already planning to fail. And sometimes I feel that same way with this community, with mostly regarding food. There's so many areas of my life that if I make a promise, it's set in stone, it's concrete, and I am not going to fail. But when it comes to something like the vulnerability of my food, I'm not as successful by any means. I am not as successful. And so what I'm concerned about is, should I never make another promise ever again? Should I never dare to tell God that I'm going to do blank, blank, blank and promise to change at the risk of failing? Well, that's not living. That's not even goal setting. That's not even hope. I mean, I'm a hope-filled person. And sometimes I think, may I dare to fail 1,000 more times with the intention of moving forward than to not risk. Not risk making a promise, not risk failing at all, not risk changing. I mean, none of it's news to God. But part of me is just like, fine, Father, I'm never going to promise you anything again. It's like, come on, make the promise at the risk of it happening this time, you know? I remember Tanny Raw was sharing a story where she was saying that this person that she'd been, I say sponsoring, but coaching, a person she'd been coaching wasn't really being truthful. Whether the person proclaimed to be or not, all factors suggested they were not living the life that they suggested, and she felt like that was really unfortunate, that they felt the need to be deceiving. And my first thought was, you know, they're deceiving themselves, and you're just a subset of them deceiving themselves, you know? And so I thought, you know, I remember I wrote her and said, you know, may I always have the grace and courage to dare to tell you my truth instead of trying to snow job you into saying that I'm amazing. And part of the reason was because Tanny cares about me. I mean, I'm a civilian. She has 60,000 followers. I'm just another follower. I'm just another flunky in her large array of individuals. But like any good student who sits in the very front of the class and insists that the teacher notice them, I'm one of those. And she's noticed me over time. And I remember writing saying, I just want to always be honest enough to tell you that I'm in a bad place. And so anyway, back in December, literally like on my birthday, she called me out and said, Jules, you may be blessed and you may be vegan, but you ain't eating right, girl. And I was like, wait, what? I mean, and she could just say, she said, I could see it in your eyes. I don't have a poker face. I mean, I'm an actress. I'm an Academy Award actress when I want to be, but I don't have a poker face. So when I'm broken, it's very clear. And when my eyes show my truth, she's very good at reading that. So she called me out. And so the very next day after my birthday on the 28th of December, I started to pull myself together. And though I've had one or two small slips, I've mostly been right on track. And I appreciated her calling me out. But part of me was just like, oh, I don't ever want to promise anyone ever again because I don't want to fail anyone. And I don't want anyone, like this whole thing. Maybe I should have called this extreme thinking because, man, I am such an extremist when it comes to thinking. And when I grew up, my family, my father was just black and white. There was no gray. You could not be part way of anything. And that's kind of funny because the school that I'm at right now, Yoda is the mascot for our grade level, and Star Wars is kind of their theme. And Yoda always says, of course, I just got done with open house and I'm exhausted, but he always says, do or not do, there is no try. Do or not do, there is no try. But of course he says, Yoda, do or not do, there is no try. Something like that. And so it is kind of that same thing. I mean, you're either in motion to be well and going forward, or you're not in motion and you're just staying in your disease. And again, disease is dis-ease, to not be at ease. And I get that. So anyway, for today, I feel like I'm between a rock and a hard place because I'm in that extreme thinking mode and just feeling like I'm never going to commit to anything ever again at the risk of failing. Well, inevitably, if I never commit to anything again, I'm not living, I'm not striving, I'm not moving forward. And by all accounts, that is failing in itself, right? All right, people. So those are my thoughts for today. As usual, prayers welcome. And like if you like, join us if you haven't. Share in the comments so that I may support you. And best of all, know that you're blessed.